Welcome to Ladies Talking Love for this holiday bonus episode, Fostering Holiday Connection. It's Ladies Talking Love, a community of women uncovering more joy and fulfillment in sex as we learn from experts and amazing women like you. Together, let's create a world where women's sexuality is celebrated and understood, beginning with our own. I'm your host, Ariel Finlinson. Let's talk love. Well, hi, friends. I feel like I've been gone for a year or something, but I'm so happy to be back. As many of you know, I'm pregnant, and the first several months just really rocked me. And for me, it felt like my body and mind and everything was just like, you can't do anything else except grow this baby for these months. And so I just had to let go of a lot of things. And unfortunately, the podcast was something that I had to let go of for a time, but I'm so happy to be back. I'm planning to start season 3 in January, but I wanted to make sure those of you who don't follow me on Instagram knew why I had been gone. And I also wanted to give you a little holiday episode to talk about connection. We talk a lot about female anatomy and how to learn about yourselves and motherhood and our emotions and all of these things. And I want to make sure that we're also talking a lot about connection, because I think a lot of us separate our sex life and our connection with our spouse, as we've talked about with the way we view our bodies and thinking that sex may just be about how we look and all these things. I wanted an episode, especially around the Christmas holidays, to talk about connection, because when we can be connected and feel connection and really be able to focus on the good in our spouse and also connect with them and see the things they struggle with and love them and accept them, and vice versa, having them see the things we struggle with and us being able to be authentic and show them the things that we struggle with and the things that are really hard for us. This can create such a beautiful bond that will enhance your sex life in a profound way. And so I hope that this episode is helpful, especially in this busy time of year where we have so many activities going on and so many traditions, that you can also take time to focus on building your connection with your spouse and helping this time of year be a really special time of year for you and your partner. Camille Jensen is an online life coach who focuses on helping moms start their own businesses. None of this was ever part of her life plans. She grew up believing the only work for her to do was become a wife and mother. Upon landing in these roles, she found herself empty of self-esteem and entirely not nailing it. Through highly impactful therapy, sheer self-development work, and coaching, she now finds great fulfillment in those roles, along with her choice to be a coach, helping other moms to find the same. After living in southern Utah, where she attended school, she enjoys life back in her hometown, the Frost Lands of Cache Valley, Utah, with her husband and their 3 children. She is the extrovert in her marriage, doesn't fold laundry, loves playing games with family, and is currently obsessed with cross-stitching. Before jumping in, I just wanted to thank you all again for being here, especially for sticking around with my extra long break. Life happens, and I really appreciate you understanding that there are ups and downs in all of our lives and all of our relationships, and all of us sometimes need a time to slow down and cut back and then to reprioritize. And sometimes that time might lead us to something new, or we'll be able to get back into what we love. But I just wanted to thank you so much for sticking around and hopping on to listen to this bonus episode after a really long break. And I really hope that as we jump back in next year with season 3, that this podcast will serve you. That's what it's here for. I want it to be helpful. I have been in such a dark place myself, trying to figure out what motherhood looks like for me, what my sexuality is, and really understanding it and shifting so many of the harmful things that I had internalized. So I hope that this podcast will serve you. I always love to hear from you and hear things that you're learning or things that you're struggling with and what we can do to make this podcast better serve you. So please always feel free to write me an email at hello@ladiestalkinglove.com or write me a message on Instagram at ladies.talkinglove. But without further ado, let's talk love. I'm so excited to welcome Camille Jensen onto Ladies Talking Love today. Thanks so much for joining me, Camille.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Ariel. I'm so excited.
It's been a minute since we've had an episode. And so I got in touch with Camille and I was like, okay, before we launch season 3, let's just do a quick Christmas episode because this is a time of year that can get so busy. But I also think there's so much potential for connection with your spouse in this time of year where it's like all the fun traditions or limiting your traditions if you have too many, whatever it is. And for some of us, like for me, coming out of being super sick with pregnancy, I almost feel like I need to kind of build connection back up because it's just been survival mode for a while. And for others, it might be, okay, how do we stay connected or even find more connections? So to start off, what do you think are some of the barriers that couples face in staying connected or building connection, especially during this busy time of year with the Christmas holidays and New Year's?
Such a good question. There's the obvious answers of, oh, time and we're busy, so we don't have time together. But what I think is even a bigger part of it at this time of year is this idea that it should be magical and wonderful. Like this is the time that we create the biggest expectations, and for beautiful reasons. Like it's so beautiful, right? But there's so many expectations that we have. And I think it's awesome for us to say, what do I want? What an amazing time of year. What do I want? How can I make life magical? But over time, we've kind of also added with that disappointment and expectations being broken, And so
and feeling like people should know our expectations without us even telling them because it's supposed to be big. So
I think so many that we don't even know we have. Like,
right.
We do Christmas cards or we don't, or this is how we do it. I write something. No, it's got to be a cute picture. Or I give this kind of thing to neighbors and this kind of thing to teachers. There's so many things running through our minds that with all of our desires and disappointments and expectations and how we've almost been calloused to handle all of that emotionally, that's one of the reasons that it's kind of hard to really foster connections.
I've definitely found a lot of those. Sometimes I want to make it so special that it ends up not being special because I like ruin it because I want it to be so special. So my birthday is right around Christmas time, and on my calendar, it popped up a little thing from Kyle. It was like, ask Ariel what her expectations are for her birthday. And I was like, I'm so glad he has that in his calendar because
so cute.
It's so good to just know what my expectations are, and then to be able to talk like, oh, Ariel, those are a little too high. Let's maybe bring it down, or yeah, let's do that. So I really liked that he had that in there to start up because there's so many expectations. So what are some of your biggest tips for us then to build connection during this time of year?
My tips really are for any time of year. So there's a lot of action steps, but I really think that it's important to keep 3 things in mind when we're wanting to foster connection, especially with our spouses, but anyone truly. And the 3 tips are: first, your spouse does not make you feel connected. You create that connection 100% of the time. This connection truth is so valuable to remember because we get to put the ownership back on where it is, which is with us. Our spouse, we can't control them. And truly, if you think about it, it's not like there's this third entity of here's me and you and our connection. Like, no, my connection with Nate, my spouse, resides in my mind. What I'm thinking about him, my story about him, how I have felt, what we've experienced, right? It's all in my mind. And same for him with me and his connection to me. That's all in his mind. And so remembering this can help us have more of the power in ourselves. This is good news that we don't have to try to control our spouse. We get to say, oh, how am I going to create connection? Oh, that's so beautiful. So I love remembering that with connection. The second one is that your spouse's only job is to be themselves. That's their only job. So if we can let our expectation of them be that they'll be them, they're going to hit it every single time. Instead of like, I have this analogy of a door, okay? And behind that door is this beautiful relationship that if but only we could get through this door, it's going to be romantic and it's going to be fulfilling and passionate. Or maybe for you, it's just that I just want my spouse to get the kids ready for bed. Like, okay, that's fine. That's behind the door, but it's locked. Can't open it. We feel like our spouse has to change in order for us to get through that door. But the truth is that connection is with that key. It's with the spouse. We're really cheating on our spouse by wanting to be on the other side of the door and not seeing that we have that connection right here already. We're already there because he is that. Will we need to be wrong about some of our ideas about him getting the kids ready for bed? You can talk to him about it, but truly, we're going to find connection when we let ourselves see and love the real them. The third truth I have found with connection is that really we have to be connected to ourselves to really feel connected to someone else. Because if I want to put a mask on and, oh, I need to be better, or I need to be less like this, I need to change myself in order to grow a connection. With the mask on, it blocks them from really connecting with me. And it blocks me from truly feeling that safety and connection and that unity.
I think those are so good. So we're going to go back and dig into each of those because that is a lot of
So
information
much.
And some of it is hard to think, okay, how does this work for me? I haven't thought of this before. So going back to your first tip that your spouse does not make you feel connected. You build that connection. So can you help us break that down a little bit more? How do you go about then creating that connection when you maybe feel unconnected?
There's so many ways. What I like to do is to first connect with the experience that I am currently having. Like, okay, where am I at? So first note where you are. Are you feeling resentment? Are you feeling, okay, we could say disconnected, but let's say why? Like, what's the other feeling with that? I'm feeling sad. Am I feeling uncertain? Am I feeling shame, embarrassment, anger? Really connect with that feeling so that you know, oh, let me get clear about my disconnection. Getting clear on your feelings and then your thoughts about it. And then looking at what you want to create. So often we're focused on the problem. Oh, I had this shame. I've got to fix the shame. And there's a lot of power in really digging deep. But often we can just recognize it and then say, all right, well, what do I want? Where do I want my focus to be? I want to feel grateful with my spouse, or I want to feel appreciation. Okay, where can I find the evidence of that? Where is that? Because if we look around the room and I say, find everything that's red, and then you come back and I say, okay, what was white? And you're like, I don't know. So if you're only looking for problems, you're going to see it. But I promise you, when you look for what you're wanting to create to help foster that connection, your brain is just going to be picking up that evidence. So using your thoughts and your feelings can help in you creating that and taking the ownership.
There's a diagram that we studied in one of my classes, and I can't remember the name of it, but it talks about how we get in these patterns, like circular patterns. And if one person takes a step to change, it's almost like you're expanding that circle and moving out into a bigger circle around the one you were just in. And what happens is maybe your partner doesn't respond, and so you go back into the pattern, or you continue it and something has to change. Like your changing in yourself requires a change in the relationship. And so even though I definitely like to blame people, that is one of my faults. I'm like, it's your fault. Like if you did this, I would have been so bad or whatever. But remembering that I can be an instigator for change. And obviously, we don't hope that a relationship breaks because we're talking about healthy relationships in this podcast and ones, where we're not having abuse or all these things. But when someone in the relationship makes a change that pushes them into that circle, that is bigger than the one that they're in, something has to happen. Either their partner comes out and meets them and that relationship is changed, or the person who made the change goes back into the inner circle, back to their old pattern, or the person stays in their outer circle with the changes that they've made and their partner doesn't meet them, and it can actually cause that relationship to break if they don't go back into the pattern. But in a healthy relationship, I think that you're going to be able to grow and you're going to be able to connect and change the relationship to a better place as you both expand in yourself. And I really like that idea of thinking about yourself, because I definitely like to sometimes focus on others' problems instead of my own.
Our brains naturally do that. Our brains are designed to like do the least amount of work as quickly as possible. So it's like, if you could change, right, then that's going to be easier for me. So like, we're not bad that that's a natural thing. Like, our brains are great that way. But I love that with the circle. And it reminds me of another principle of connection, which is trust. When we extend ourselves, and I don't know how you're going to react here, but this is where I'm at. This is honestly the change I want to make. And I'm just going to kind of take that step. When they meet up, however they do, that is a connection that just, right? It's so powerful. And so that trust and vulnerability of, I'm going to make a change and I feel good about it. It truly is just boom, gonna just totally add to the connection.
I think that is so true. And it is a lot of trust and vulnerability and fear of what could happen, because we don't know when we make those changes. It's kind of like stepping into the dark. But in a loving, healthy relationship, I think our partner often wants to meet us where we're at and help us. And so I love that first idea of looking to yourself first and how to create that connection. So then the principle number 2, can you say it one more time for us?
Yeah, your spouse's only job is for them to be themselves.
So we talked a little bit about this in the first one of like looking for positive things. What are some other tips you would give us? Because sometimes it is hard. It's like, but this is driving me mad.
I know. And, another circle analogy I have is sometimes I think there's like a circle of yellow over here and a circle of blue, where it's like, okay, I really don't like this thing about my spouse that I just can't ignore. I think sometimes we think we have to choose that, or, oh, I love it and I'm fine and things are fine. And it's like either or, but there's this third circle that we can like draw around both of those. I can allow for this discomfort. This isn't settled yet. At least for me, that's a little piece of, hey, I don't have to love this, but what can I love instead? We just can't fix and change our spouses. The more we just make peace, even with a little bit of the things that we're not okay with, I feel like it just diffuses it a little bit.
And I think that's such a good point to include both, because you can't change it. And if you look at yourself, creating a space in a relationship to feel trust and safety, even though you both have things that are hard for you about each other, is really beautiful and empowering.
Totally. It totally is. And when I looked at the word connection, it led me to the word relate, and which leads me to words even like to account or to tell. And to me, it just leads right into honesty. So truly, if we want a real connection with our spouses, we want them to be them. We really do. I promise. We really do. We don't want them to pretend. We don't want them to put a mask on. That's not real connection. Sure, maybe it might make the day easier for that 1 hour, but I promise you it's not going to guide the relationship somewhere healthy. So it's true for them and for us. We want to allow ourselves to be ourselves, all the good and all the bad, that huge circle. And I think it's so interesting looking at, if we have a problem with this one of our spouses being themselves, then really it's just a beautiful mirror that we're having a problem with ourselves being ourselves. It's showing us we aren't accepting some things about ourselves. And so that's why we like can't with them.
Can you explain a little bit more of how you see that works? What does that look like, that having a problem with your spouse reflects on you having a problem with yourself?
When any of my clients have shared like, oh, my spouse, he's not supporting me with the holiday dinner that I'm doing, and I want to feel supported, then we'll look in her for a minute and I say, well, are you supporting yourself? Are you helping yourself create the support that you need? And we'll find how she really is sacrificing herself like crazy all over the place, where she is not truly, in all actuality, supporting herself. She's not getting the sleep she needs. She's not letting go of some expectations that are keeping her stressed and keeping her up. So the frustration with him not supporting her really was an opportunity for her to see, oh, wait, I'm not supporting myself enough.
I think that's such a good thing to think about. Obviously, it's important to include our spouse and tell them, hey, I could use this, and to have that discussion of what they're willing to do and things like that. But also, I know for me, I could do better at simplifying things to support myself better. For instance, I love to make things homemade. And so it's really hard for me to go to the store and buy something. But sometimes I'm just like, Ariel, it's causing me so much stress and I can just go buy it and then have that. So I like that idea of thinking about how to support yourself. And this goes so well into what you were just talking about with the third point of connecting with ourselves and knowing ourselves, that is a huge part. Like we were talking about, you really can't connect with someone on a deep level if you aren't authentic within yourself.
Yes. The third one being we cannot connect with anyone if we are disconnected with ourselves.
So what does that look like? How do we connect with ourselves?
I really kind of want to answer this to the person who might be listening who genuinely is feeling completely lost at thinking about this. Oh my gosh, I don't know how to connect with myself. What am I supposed to do? That makes zero sense. And so I think to help you understand how to connect with that, how do you make friends? What does connection look like? And to me, it's talking to somebody, smiling at them, appreciating something about them, spending time with them, giving them a hug, showing them compassion, being kind to them, knowing things about them, caring about them. And all those things, they sound so little, but they really are so grounding. Us moms spend so much time, beautiful time, doing so many things that, again, are so beautiful, but we forget how valuable smelling the flowers is with ourselves. Of look in the mirror and smile at yourself. Do a high five to yourself. Genuinely say, I am proud of those cookies that I just made, and feeling it. Or even saying, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling the ground on my toes. Ooh, I love how that feels. I like that. That's fun. Ooh, I'm getting to know myself. Oh yeah, what do I like? Instead of going at the questions like, I need to know what I like. Dating sucks that way, right? When you're like, okay, give me the answers of what you're like. No, you just genuinely spend authentic time with them. If you're still like, I don't know where to start, I like to go to my relationship with my spouse again and even see what I feel like I need there. And if I'm like, I want him to touch me more physically, genuinely stroking my arm or touching my neck, it is crazy the emotion that I will feel inside myself of I feel so loved and seen when I just intentionally touch my arms or my hands in a hey, I love you. To me, that can show you maybe one direction to start connecting with yourself that way.
What you were talking about before is one that was coming to mind as you were talking, just those feelings of resentment or whatever we're feeling, to kind of dig into that and see, where is this coming from within myself? I was doing some study this semester on women self-silencing, and it was really interesting how a lot of our society promotes women self-silencing in the way we see women as docile and just peacemakers and things like this. But the research talked about how women who self-silence, they often feel like the way for them to preserve relationships is to silence their needs and desires and just kind of be that peacemaker. Yes, I'm going to make it work. But like we were talking about, that actually makes connection
Yes.
impossible because you're not being authentic. And so when you're feeling those feelings of resentment, it's like, wait, what need or what want am I not voicing that I need?
Yes, like it's the whole bigger circle. Bring it in. That's a part of you. And don't be afraid of it. What are you feeling resentful about? It's worth the time to figure it out. It's okay to spend time in I'm not okay in the relationship here because I'm frustrated. Take the time. You're worth it.
Yes.
And the relationship is worth it. And like you said, you genuinely cannot have a deep, connected, healthy relationship when you're silencing yourself. Because again, that's bringing up a wall, bringing up a mask.
And one of my friends recently, she obviously knows what I do and things, but she pulled me aside and she's like, Ariel, I just have to tell you that recently my husband and I have been having these conversations of things that we're personally struggling with. And she's like, I cannot tell you how immensely our sex life has improved and our connection has improved. And just bringing that vulnerability of things you struggle with or things you're wanting to change in yourself or needs you have and letting that person see it. It's a really vulnerable step, but that's what brings the connection and brings the opportunity for that connection and that growth.
Yes, it's not a, hey, are the candles lit in the perfect spot? Hey, did it look good? Is my curly hair set nice? It's like, no, it's the, yeah.
Ugly cry.
It's the, this is where I'm at. And this is what I'm feeling and thinking. And I feel scared to talk to anybody else about this, but I'm bringing it up with you. And man, it turns me on, you know?
It helps you feel loved when that person can accept you and say, awesome. Like, how can I support you or just give you a hug, whatever it is. This has been awesome, Camille. As we're closing up, can you recap those 3 tips and maybe quickly summarize where you would suggest women start creating that connection?
Totally. So those 3 tips again about connection are: 1, your spouse does not make you feel connected. You create that feeling of connection. 2, your spouse's only job is for them to be themselves. Number 3, we cannot connect with anyone when we are disconnected with ourselves. And so where to start? You can schedule time for yourself, being kind to yourself. You can write an apology letter to yourself. You can drop a tradition that stresses you out. There are so many ways that you can just in tiny ways connect with yourself and seeing yourself. Let yourself be where you're at. You cannot connect to a fake part of yourself. So accepting where you are and seeing it and knowing there's room in the relationship for all of you, it's going to help you make room for your spouse. And that is going to be real connection and foster connection for Christmas and every other time of the year.
Yes. Thank you so much, Camille. This has been awesome. Can you let people know where they can find you?
Yes. You can find me on Facebook at Camp J Coaching and also on Instagram. My Instagram handle is cj.mustardseed.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thanks, Ariel.
The Christmas season is definitely my favorite time of year. And I know that not everybody feels that way. And I hope that if Christmas time and the holidays is a hard time for you, I hope that this episode was still helpful for you. But for me, I can definitely get lost in the hustle and bustle and lose sight of the main reason I love this time of year. I love thinking about the people that I love and getting gifts for them and thinking about what they enjoy and what they would enjoy to have as a gift from me. And I hope that as you go throughout this season, you can look at what you're doing and simplify. Look at the things that are important. Look for ways to support yourself. I thought that was such a great point that Camille made. And look for ways to create connection. I definitely sometimes look on other people to create that connection or blame them if it's not what I want, instead of looking inside and saying, hey, I'm the one who gets to create the type of connection that I want, and I get to let my spouse. I get to let my children be them, and I can look for the good in them. And I hope during this busy time of year that you can also take time to notice yourself. Notice what you need, notice what you want, notice what you're enjoying and what you like. That has been such an important part of my journey, working to get to know myself. And it can be hard, but taking some time to be mindful and think about what you enjoy right now, what you're liking or what you aren't liking, to be able to look for what you do want. It seriously is so good to be back with you all. I've missed this community and I've missed podcasting, even though I didn't realize it at the time because everything just felt so sick. But thank you so much for being here and sticking around with me. If you have a chance over the holiday season, I'd really appreciate if you could hop on and leave us a review on the podcast so that when we come back in January, we can have more people joining our community and talking love with us. We have a super great lineup of podcast episodes that I've had recorded for a while, and I'm really excited to work on getting those out to you starting in January. So make sure and look for those. Follow along with us on Instagram at ladies.talkinglove. And as always, thanks for talking love.